All right, welcome back. Today, we are getting into what is maybe the most fundamental problem in all of economics: scarcity. It's pretty simple, right? We all want all sorts of things, but we live in a world with limited stuff. And that one simple fact forces every single one of us, and even entire countries, to make choices. So let's dive in and see how a little bit of math can actually make those choices crystal clear.
Okay, let's start with something super relatable, a problem I guarantee you faced. You've got 20 bucks, that's your lunch money for the whole week. You're standing there in a food court. What do? Go for the tacos, the pizza, a little bit of both? You see, this isn't just a silly lunch dilemma, that's economics in a nutshell.
So to figure this out, economists have this really awesome tool called a budget constraint, or a budget line. I know it sounds kind of formal and complicated, but it's not. It's just a simple way to draw a map of all the possible combinations of things you can actually afford. It basically turns your financial limits into a picture.
So for our lunch problem, let's lay out the facts. We've got a total budget of $20. Tacos are a pretty good deal at $2 each. And pizza slices, well, they're a bit more expensive at $4. These are the three numbers we're going to be playing with.
And now, a little bit of math. The universal formula for any budget constraint looks like this. Now, don't get thrown by the letters. All this is saying is that the money you spend on item 1, that's its price, P1, times how many you buy, Q1, plus the money you spend on item 2 has to add up to your total budget. That's it.
So let's take that abstract idea and make it real. We're just going to plug in our numbers from the food court. Our budget is $20. The price of a taco is $2, and the price of a pizza is $4. So our new equation is 20 equals 2 times the number of tacos plus 4 times the number of pizzas. And just like that, we've described our entire lunch situation with one equation.
Okay, so to turn this equation into a useful graph, we need to figure out the endpoints. So let's imagine an extreme scenario. What if you spent every single penny on tacos? Well, you've got 20 bucks, tacos cost $2 each. Quick math, you can buy a maximum of 10 tacos. Boom! On our graph, that point is our y-intercept.
Now let's go to the other extreme. What if you're only feeling pizza this week? You've still got that $20 budget. Pizza slices are $4 a pop, so you could afford a maximum of 5 slices. That gives us our second point, the x-intercept. And here's the cool part. Just connect those two dots, and you've drawn your budget line. Every single point on that line is a combo of tacos and pizza you can afford.
Now, before we go any further, we have to talk about a hugely important idea: opportunity cost. Here's the deal. Every time you make a choice, you are also choosing not to do something else. The opportunity cost is simply the value of whatever that next best thing was that you had to give up. It's the real, hidden cost of any decision.
So let's apply that. What's the opportunity cost of buying one slice of pizza? Well, that slice costs $4. What else could you have bought with those $4? You could have bought 2 tacos, right? So the opportunity cost of one pizza is 2 tacos. And here's where it gets really cool. That trade-off, that opportunity cost, is visually represented by the slope of the budget line we just drew.
Okay, so we've totally nailed how this works for personal choices. Now let's scale way up. We're going to go from thinking about your lunch money to thinking about the massive production choices an entire country has to make. But as you're about to see, the core logic is actually surprisingly similar.
So instead of tacos and pizza, let's say a country can only produce 2 things: healthcare and education. This table here shows all the different combinations it could produce if it's using all of its resources as efficiently as possible. This is the data we use to build a model called the Production Possibilities Frontier, or PPF. You can see at point A, it's going all in on healthcare. At point E, it's all in on education.
Now here's a key difference. Unlike your lunch budget line, the PPF isn't a straight line. See how it's bowed outwards? Why is that? Well, it's because of something called the law of increasing opportunity cost. All this means is that as you make more and more of one thing, you have to give up bigger and bigger amounts of the other. It makes sense, right? Some resources, like doctors or teachers, are just better at one job than the other.
Let's actually watch this law in action with the numbers. If the country moves from point B to point C on that curve, it gets 20 more units of education. To do that, it has to give up 10 units of healthcare. So the opportunity cost here is pretty low. Each unit of education only costs half a unit of healthcare.
But now, check out what happens when the country is already making a lot of education and tries to squeeze out even more, moving from D to E. To get that same 20 units of education, it now has to give up a whopping 40 units of healthcare. Whoa!
The cost of one education unit just jumped to 2 full healthcare units. That is a perfect illustration of increasing opportunity cost.
So this PPF graph, it's way more than just a curve. It's like a map of a country's entire economic reality. And we can use this map to see 3 fundamental conditions: what's efficient, what's inefficient, and what's just plain impossible.
So any point right on the curve itself, like A, B, or C, that represents productive efficiency. This is the sweet spot. It means the economy is firing on all cylinders. Every worker is working, every machine is running, no resources are being wasted. It's the best a country can do.
But what about a point inside the curve? Well, that represents an inefficient economy. It's a place a country can be, but you don't want to be there. It means you've got high unemployment, or factories just sitting there, or resources being used wastefully. The country could and should be producing more of everything.
And finally, what about any point outside the curve? That is the land of the impossible. It's a great goal, maybe a dream for the future, but it's completely unattainable with the country's current technology and resources. That whole region outside the curve, that is the cold, hard visual definition of scarcity.
So let's bring it all together. We've looked at 2 different models, but they are both telling us the exact same story about trade-offs. Your personal budget constraint is a straight line, because that trade-off is constant. A pizza always costs 2 tacos. But for a whole society, the PPF is a bowed-out curve. And that shape shows us that as you try to specialize more and more, the trade-offs get bigger and bigger.
You know, at the end of the day, these graphs and these equations, they're just tools. They're ways for us to think more clearly about a really fundamental truth that every single choice we make, from what we eat for lunch all the way up to huge national policies, means giving something else up. There's really no such thing as a free lunch, or free healthcare, or free education. Everything has a cost.
So I'll leave you with this question. What's the biggest trade-off you're making in your life right now? By choosing to watch this, what did you give up? By picking your job or your major in college, what was the other path you didn't take? Thinking about this stuff doesn't just help us understand economics, it helps us understand the choices that define our lives. Thanks so much for watching.